There's so much we can do. Look at all the schools in America. Most of you live in the Washington area now, but in your hometowns, I don't know where you're all from. How many schools where the kids can't drink the water out of the fountain?
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Joe Biden's very first press conference of his presidency. It took him long enough, didn't it? I mean, good grief. I was reading somewhere where they said he had broken a 100-year record for the longest time in between becoming inaugurated as a president and the very first press conference. That's quite a long time, 100 years, but judging by the way the press conference went and him looking like a corpse, pretty much 2 feet in the grave, I understand why. I get it 1,000%. Like I've said before, his handlers want him to be in the basement on cryo pause, just keeping them frozen. So whenever they need him, it's got to be an emergency. It's like, okay, the nuclear bombs have went off. All right, so we need you to come on up, talk to the people. And when you're done, go back into the cryo chamber basement and chill out right there. Okay, we got Monopoly games and popsicles and applesauce. Go down there and enjoy that. But don't come up here. We'll have Kamala Harris and Jen Psaki and Tony Blinken and other morons speaking your place. Now, let's get to the press conference. First of all, everything was really coordinated. It wasn't like what Trump would do. Trump would go out there and just call on people randomly. Okay, they be in there shouting and carrying on. That's a different story, right there. I'll talk about that in a minute. They be in there shouting and carrying on. They're like, okay, I'm going to call on you. No, I don't want to call on you. I'm going to call on you. But with Biden, he had a list of people that he wanted to call. And you could tell that it was limited to 10 people because he only called 10 people. He would call on somebody. Then they would ask a question. He would answer the question as best as he could. And then he would go right back to the list. Like, okay, all right, pick that person right there. Just the next guy on the list or girl on the list, basically, right? But anyway, a lot of these questions were really ridiculous. Yamiche Alcindor is pretty much going viral right now because she asked him a question that was really just activism, okay? First, she was saying that a lot of the so-called migrants, whatever you want to call them, illegal aliens, are coming because Joe Biden's a nice guy and he's compassionate, unlike the former administration, all this and that and the third, buttering them up, right? So she asked that question, blatantly partisan, and she went PBS, which is taxpayer funded. So you're paying for blindly partisan and also lobbyist type questions to the president. And second question, that goes back to the whole lobbying thing I just mentioned right now. She was basically saying, okay, how about this filibuster? And if you don't know what that is, to make a long story short, rather than requiring 60 votes in the Senate for certain things to pass, all you need is simple majority, 51 votes. And that's what they have right now. Or 50 votes and then add on Kamala Harris as a tiebreaker, 51 votes. You could do whatever you want. Now, they may want to do that right now because they have control of the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But if that goes the other way in 2024, with a new president, a flip House, and a flip Senate, you're going to regret doing that. But I digress. She was saying, Yamiche Alcindor, that, this would be a good thing to push forward, civil rights and voting issues, all this, that, and the third. Basically, she was lobbying him to nix the filibuster. I'm like, okay, is that what we're going to do from PBS right here on television? It was crazy. It was ridiculous. Now, he did not really say that he would do it, but he kind of signaled towards talking about, it'd be easier with less votes. We can get stuff done, all this and that. And at the same time, Biden wants to preach unity. Now, how are you going to have unity when you say, all right, no filibuster? Basically, hey, if the other side does not want to do what we want to do and they don't agree and they're against it, well, we'll do it without them. So we're not going to need them. That's not unity, all right? Or maybe in his mind, hey, if you only got a one-party system, which is what he wants, basically, to not have Republicans involved, if you got a one-party system, then you can't have any kind of division because there's only one party. Right? That might kind of be the wave he's on. There was no real challenges from any of the reporters. Like I said, under Trump, it was a chaotic scene all the time. He'd be answering the question, and then 20 seconds in, 30 seconds in, he'd get interrupted. Oh, sir, what about this? What about that? They were yelling at him, screaming at him all the time. right? All the time. But with Joe Biden, he would talk for minutes and minutes. And I'm talking about literally 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes answering the question. It got to the point where he even stopped himself. He's like, okay, am I talking too much right here? Should I go ahead and stop? Okay, I'll stop and move on to the next thing. Like, he had to stop himself. He was allowed to just speak with no interruption. Trump would never be able to do that with the same kind of press corps that was there today. It was ridiculous. Now, there were some reporters that asked some kind of difficult questions, I suppose. There was no questions about the virus, surprisingly, or guns, or Asian hate crimes, or anything of the sort. That was pretty much just not there for some reason, which is kind of weird because you got hot news right now about the Asian hate crimes and then the mass shootings and then the one guy that got caught with the body armor. You got all that kind of stuff going on right now. So why isn't that a question you would ask? Maybe it's because on this predetermined list, maybe there were predetermined questions as well. It's like, okay, you can ask about X, Y, and Z. That's it. And if you don't want to do that, then you're not going to be able to come back here and ask anything else. I don't know, but what I do know is that he was reading from a list of names to call on. He wasn't just looking out there and saying, okay, you, and you from raised hands. There was a pre-approved list, and he had a notebook, and he was reading things from there to answer his questions. He wasn't just talking like how I'm talking right now, right? But there was no virus questions. There was none of that. They did, however, question him about the border and the border crisis. Shout out to Kristen Welker, who's a leftist on NBC, if I'm not mistaken. She asked him about the border, and she kind of got a little tough and was saying, hey, when can we actually go in there with our cameras and see what's happening? Not just in the one that she wanted to show us on some North Korea type stuff, where it's like, okay, you come here, we show you country, it's good country. Not like that. Let us go to just random spots and see what's really cracking in some of the crowded areas. He's like, well, okay, you can do that when I get my plan implemented. And she's like, okay, when's that going to be? He's like, well, I don't know. Basically, look, when we get the whole thing cleared up and cleaned up, you'll be able to come in then because it'll look good for us. But until then, don't even worry about it. Peter Doocy was there from Fox News. He did not get called on at all. So he called on everyone from the left. I think AP got called on, of course. You know, some of the so-called neutral places like AP, which is not neutral anymore, and also PBS, ABC, NBC, etc., but not Fox News. Why? I don't understand why you would just leave Peter Doocy out of the equation. He's not Jim Acosta. He's not going to go out there and try to attack you, throw stones at you. He's not going to do that. He's a respectful person, and he would ask some questions that you could answer. It wouldn't back you into a corner at all. I think the hardest question that Joe Biden had was about 2024. Would he run again? And he was kind of offended a little bit at that. He was like, I don't know. It was really weird. And the question was phrased really nicely from a young lady. She was like, hey, right around this time in Trump's presidency, he had already formed this committee for 2020 at that time, all right, to run again. But you've not done that. So are you going to run again? And will Kamala Harris be the vice president? He was like, yeah, she's going to be the vice president. Yeah, I'm going to. I was like, sir, why are you getting so perturbed at this question? It wasn't even the serious. It wasn't that she wasn't trying to attack you. She was just saying, are you going to run again? Okay, because you are about 785 years old. And I'm not necessarily exaggerating because he said he got into the Senate 120 years ago. So was he joking? I don't really know. But anyway, he was really offended and perturbed at that question. But it wasn't anything to be offended about. He was just, I don't know. It was really weird. It was really weird. Low energy, very low energy. I mean, I was bored to tears. I fell asleep. I took a nice little power nap. That was some great sleep. I'm talking about I got the pillow, legs up, thumb, you know, I'm catching Z's. It was boring. To go back to Trump's press conferences right quick, Trump would joust with the reporters. They'd be yelling and screaming and over talking and interrupting, and he'd be hitting back. It was like, you know, De La Hoya, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Foreman, Ali, like that in there. With Trump being the better fighter, of course. But with this, it was like just watching old man on the porch tell stories. It's like, I'm ready to go to bed right now. I'm bored to tears. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. And it just lets me know what I've already known before, that the left-wing media and the left politically are in bed together. They are the same. They work together. They had a coordinated effort to have this be some kind of, I'm not really sure what they want to call it, a show of strength, a show of unity on their side, of course, not on our side. Okay, no filibuster, so you want to have some majority go in there and do whatever you want to do. And then when it flips on your head, if you're able to pass that, which they shouldn't pass it, but if you're able to pass, rescinding the filibuster, you're going to have the GOP gain the majority 2024 and do the exact same thing to you, get things through the House and the Senate that you don't want. And then you be crying, talking about, oh, they're suppressing us, all this, that, and the third. It's ridiculous. But as I close, I want to say this. If you missed the press conference, you didn't really miss much. It wasn't a whole lot of fire there. If you watched the entire thing without going to bed, without resting your eyes, then, hey, hats off to you. You deserve a gold medal, a gold star, all that good stuff. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that this press conference was a good one? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. How do you feel about Biden taking so long to have this press conference? But was it too long? Do you understand why they did it? Because he looked halfway dead or all the way? I'm talking about 2 feet in the grave, like a mummy, like a sarcophagus. Whatever thoughts on that are, let me know in the comments below. You guys pretty much know where I stand. I think this so-called press conference was very embarrassing, made us look ridiculous, kind of like Banana Republic type stuff. The government wants to show you a particular thing to make things appear one way when we know it's not that way. We know there's not really unity among the government like that to where everything's all peace and calm and all this. If you would have had a thing where you could just call on random people without having them pre-screened, questions pre-screened, no notebook to read from, you would have had a much better press conference. All right. What you had out there was an old man that looks totally lost in the sauce, doesn't know what's going on, being pretty much Geppetto around by his handlers. It was sad. And like I said before, I think he might not last too much longer in the presidency, quite frankly. They're going to say, okay, 25th Amendment on you. Go ahead and get out. Thank you for your service. Here's a pen and all this and that. Here's a watch and the pen. Take that. Okay, Kamala, come on. You're going to be the next person. This is probably why they want us to refer to them as a Biden-Harris administration, because when Biden's gone, Harris will be there, and you've already been saying Harris, so it's an easy transition. I see what's going on. Do you? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.